Good afternoon, I'm Rob Boskamp, and you're listening to South Texas Midday. Happy Monday, it's October 27th. The final phase of decommissioning the Old Harbor Bridge began this past weekend as the center span has begun to be lowered in what will be a multi-day operation that began on Saturday. The lowering process will last through Tuesday when the span will be transported by water to a dock between Portland and Ingleside. The effort has been planned and coordinated between the Texas Department of Transportation, U.S. Coast Guard, and the Port of Corpus Christi. The removal of the 1959 bridge makes way for full operation of the New Harbor Bridge, which is now open to traffic. The approach structures on the north and south sides of the ship channel will be demolished later this year. State Representative Denise Villalobos plans to apply for an exemption from the Texas Department of Transportation's order to remove downtown public art installations in Corpus Christi. TxDOT's Safe Road initiative affects 25 pieces of public art in downtown Corpus Christi, many of those murals painted on electrical boxes. Over the weekend, Texas A&M Corpus Christi and Driscoll Health System hosted the third annual Health Sciences and Technology Research Symposium. The event brings together leading researchers, healthcare professionals, and innovators to share groundbreaking discoveries and explore solutions that advance patient care and shape the future of medicine.
It is the impact for our community. So serving as the executive vice president here, to me, part of my role is to make sure that the university is engaged with the community, but not just engaged, the impact of our research and what we do here, whether it is in the classroom or it is in the lab or whatever it is on campus, is being reflected on our community.
That was Dr. Ahmed Mahdi, TAMU-CC Executive Vice President for Research and Innovation, speaking on the event, bringing people together. Participants had the opportunity to network with researchers and clinicians, as well as discover innovations that will transform healthcare.
We at Driscoll are clinicians. We take care of the children and patients. The university has researchers and people with the knowledge that is really important to bring research to a successful enterprise. So what we needed to do was to bring people together.
That was Dr. Jaime Fergie with Driscoll Children's Hospital, hopeful for the field's and symposium's future growth. Keynote speaker was Dr. Stephen Langley, Chief of Pediatric Cardiac Surgery with Driscoll Children's Hospital. He shared his To Infinity and Beyond address with stories from the operating room and reflections on decades of leadership as he challenged attendees to embrace relentless, purposeful pursuit of perfection in research, medicine, and beyond. Early voting for the November 4th election continues through Friday. In addition to local races and propositions, ballots will also feature 17 proposed amendments to the Texas Constitution. And one of those is Proposition 4. If approved by voters, it would direct a portion of existing state sales and use tax revenue to the Texas Water Fund. The amendment does not create a new tax. Instead, it allocates a portion of existing state revenue when certain financial conditions are met. That fund supports water supply and storage projects, modernization of aging infrastructure, conservation and drought response initiatives, and rural and regional system improvements. For more information about what's on the ballot, you can request a nonpartisan voters guide from the League of Women Voters of Texas. More information can be found online at the League of Women Voters of Corpus Christi area, Victoria, and Rio Grande Valley's websites. The Victoria County Elections Commission will meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. to accept the retirement notice of County Elections Administrator Margetta Hill and discuss plans to fill that position. The meeting will happen at 115 North Bridge Street in room 241 on the second floor. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is threatening to withhold billions of dollars in SNAP contingency funding, which Congress has already allocated for emergency scenarios. If the government shutdown stretches into next month, there is between $5 and $6 billion currently in that fund, not enough to cover the estimated $8 billion in SNAP benefits due next month. It would, however, allow for partial payments to help low-income Americans defray food costs, but last week USDA released guidance saying it will not use those funds to cover SNAP benefits if the government shutdown extends beyond Friday. In state news, last week, Governor Abbott nominated a new justice for the Supreme Court of Texas, Kyle Hawkins. The former Texas Solicitor General currently works as a partner at an Austin law firm. The Texas Newsroom's Blaze Gainey has more.
When Justice Jeffrey Boyd retired in September, he left an empty seat on the court. Kyle Hawkins is that replacement, marking Abbott's 8th nominee to the 9-member Texas Supreme Court. Hawkins has taught at UT's law school and served as a law clerk to U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. Of note, in 2020, while Hawkins was Solicitor General of Texas, he chose not to join Attorney General Ken Paxton's lawsuit to overturn the 2020 election results and resigned shortly after. More recently, Hawkins worked on the U.S. Officer of Solicitor General's transition from Biden to Trump. In his new role, Hawkins will join fellow Republican judges on the Supreme Court in Texas, keeping the hold the GOP's had on the court since the 90s. I'm Blaze Gainey in Austin.
Farmers and ranchers from multiple states have joined in a campaign to raise awareness about labor shortages that they say are negatively impacting generational family farms. As KTTZ's Brad Burt reports, the campaign highlights an issue that has producers and economists concerned about higher food prices across the country.
Zach Rutledge is an assistant professor in the Department of Agricultural, Food, and Resource Economics at Michigan State University, who spoke for the Grow It Here campaign. He says about half of U.S. farmers face some kind of labor shortage.
This issue of the domestic labor supply has implications for U.S. consumers and also affects the trade balance in the U.S.
Farmers say lowering costs for employing temporary foreign workers could help, but some say they still rely on immigrants who can work year-round. The U.S. Labor Department has warned that a worker shortage is, quote, threatening the stability of domestic food production and prices. For NPR News, I'm Brad Burt.
Congressional Democrats are pressing the Environmental Protection Agency to restore funding to a program expanding the deployment of solar energy for working families. Houston Public Media's Andrew Schneider has more.
The EPA announced in August that it would terminate the Solar for All program and take back $7 billion in funds from grant recipients, saying the Trump administration's rescission package required it to do so. Houston Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher played a key role in passing the program into law 3 years ago.
What we see here is yet another example of the administration ignoring or rejecting the law that Congress has passed and programs that Congress has put into place for no reason or for reasons that they just don't agree with it.
Fletcher co-led 100 House Democrats in sending a letter to EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin demanding he restore the program and reinstate the grant funding. Fletcher says Zeldin's office has yet to respond. I'm Andrew Schneider in Houston.
Primary care services will now be provided at Planned Parenthood's South Texas clinics in the Rio Grande Valley. The nonprofit announced last week that same-day telehealth appointments, wellness examples, and disease management are among basic primary care services available in the valley. Weight loss support, anxiety and depression treatment, as well as gender-affirming services, birth control, and STI testing and treatment will also be included at the clinics. Citizenship documentation does not have to be provided. The Texas Department of Transportation will host public workshops next month to update Rio Grande Valley residents on progress with the state's South Padre Island Second Access Project. A virtual workshop will be at 5 p.m. November 5th and in person on November 6th. The workshops are open to the public and provide updates on the project's history and status of TxDOT's environmental study, which explores alternate access across the Laguna Madre area to the island, aiming to improve public safety and traffic flow. Attendees can submit comments on the project online via TxDOT.gov, at the in-person workshop, or by emailing SPI Second Access at TxDOT.gov. In Edna, the Jackson County Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster recently received a $10,000 donation for operating expenses. Jackson County VOAD helped the local community prepare, respond, and recover from disasters. The KR and Laura Miller Foundation gave to assist the organization to continue its emergency response operations. And in sports over the weekend, the Corpus Christi Ice Rays took down the Shreveport Mudbugs 2-1 on both Friday and Saturday at the Hilliard Center. The Ice Rays won Saturday's game in shootout fashion. In college football, UTRGV took down the University of Incarnate Word in homecoming and Southland Conference action. The Vaqueros won 56-28 and improved to 6-2 overall, 2-2 in Southland Conference play. Meanwhile, Texas A&M Kingsville football fell short in their homecoming game against Western Oregon University, 34-27. The Javelinas dropped to 2-4 in Lone Star Conference play. And in college soccer, Texas A&M Victoria men's and women's soccer teams will host Our Lady of the Lake in Red River Athletic Conference play this afternoon. Saturday's matches were rescheduled due to weather. And that is the latest news and information on South Texas Midday. I'm Rob Boskamp. Your community arts calendar and more is on the way.